Sometimes I would like to tinker with computers without physically being in the same room with them. Controlling systems over network using SSH, RDP or other remote control solutions isn't always an option, especially when installing or reinstalling an OS. A network KVM solution is the solution. However, those prices hurt my wallet. Enter PiKVM, a network KVM solution built upon a cheap Raspberry Pi. I'm going to build one after the intro. I will use my Raspberry Pi 02W and this cheap HDMI-CSI bridge I bought on AliExpress for about 18 euros. That HDMI-CSI bridge is nothing more than an HDMI capture card using the camera interface of a Raspberry Pi. If you're using a Pi 4, you might get away using an even cheaper USB HDMI dongle. The image PiKVM provides for the 02W doesn't support that, however, probably due to the fact that this unit only has a single USB data port, which we need to control the connected computer. To install the HDMI-CSI bridge, pull this black clip to the side gently, push the flat cable in and push the clip back in place. And do the same on the Raspberry Pi. That's all there is to it. I found this Tom's Hardware article that mentions the use of a USB splitter to both power the Pi and connect it to the host machine. Then use a piece of electrical tape to make sure the 5V USB power doesn't get fed back to the host PC. I figured a powered USB hub would do the trick as well. This should not feed power from a connected device to the host PC either. Please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I haven't blown any USB port so far and my phone does not start to charge when connected to the host port. To be very sure, you could use a blocker like this one, isolate it with some tape anyway, or just cut the red wire from a cable. I'm using this USB switch that connects two computers to a set of USB devices with a switch button on top. That feature is kinda useless in this setup since it doesn't switch the HDMI signal, but it's the only powered USB hub I have around. I'll simply connect the Raspberry Pi as a USB peripheral to the front of the hub, a power supply to the power input of the hub, and the PC I want to control at the back. The HDMI output cable from the PC goes in here. The last piece of the puzzle we need is the PiKVM image on an SD card. Head to pikvm.org, click Download, click DIY and click the download link for the Raspberry Pi 02W here. We want the V2 image, as V1 doesn't support keyboard and mouse emulation without additional hardware. Also, as you can see, you can use an older Pi, but you'll again need additional hardware to get keyboard and mouse controls working. Now just use the Raspberry Pi Imager or DD or some other tool of your liking to write the image to the card. Make sure not to supply customizations, as this image does not support it. After it's written, mount the first partition and look for pikvm.txt. Simply add these two lines and edit them to the wireless network you're using. If you're using a Pi 4 connected to Ethernet, you obviously don't need this. Alright, put the card in the Pi and boot it up. First time this might take a bit longer, but well, I don't think I waited more than a minute before I could open the interface. However, when I used this no-name Chinese card, it took about 15 minutes, so just use a decent one. Let's check the IP address of my new PiKVM in my router and simply point the browser to that address. There it is. Log in with user admin and the same password. You might get a warning about those credentials being compromised. Really? Alright, so the wind box from my previous video is connected. Let's see if it'll boot from an image. I've got a ReactOS Live CD image already uploaded to the PiKVM. Connect drive to server. Maybe it just needs a reboot. Let's send Ctrl-Alt-Del. There it is. Booting from an ISO that lives on the Raspberry Pi. Pretty cool. Oh. Yeah, this might be a slight issue. The system doesn't respond to keyboard and mouse anymore, and because we don't have ATX power control, we can't reset the system. So in this case, I'd have to go to the machine to physically reset it. Might be something to keep in mind if you want to control a server like this. There are options for that, both DIY and pre-built. Right, I've reset the machine. Let's upload another image. Choose File. I have downloaded damn small Linux. Click Upload and wait until it's done. That boots up just fine. But it's at 720p and I have trouble reading the text on screen. Not sure if this is a damn small Linux issue or a PiKVM issue. I can't figure out how to set a display resolution like this either. So I uploaded my Gaia instead, which also booted in 720p but had no issue switching to 1080. I wonder if we have sound. Nah. Not sure if that's the fault of the cheap HDMI adapter I used or that the DIY PiKVM just doesn't support it. I bought this one because someone mentioned it works with PiKVM and they also said sound doesn't work. PiKVM recommends using this Waveshare variant though, that also supports a higher frame rate. I just went for the cheapest option because I don't really care too much about that for this setup. Next I connected my PC900 to see if that would work. I used a VGA to HDMI converter to connect that one. Booting fine from an image. Ooh. Yeah, I guess that Reactor as live image isn't working too well. So how fast is this interface? For that, I connected it to my test PC and tried to run a game at 1080p. Well, there's a bit too much hiccups to call it playable, but I'd say this is pretty darn good. Keep in mind that we're running on a Raspberry Pi 02W that only supports 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi. Apart from that, the signal isn't too great in the attic where I ran this test, so I'd say this is pretty impressive. What if we switch from WebRTC H.264 to Direct H.264? About the same, I guess. We could try Legacy MJPEG, but I don't think it will be great. Yeah, that's quite a bit worse. Look, you can change the orientation as well. Could come in handy. Yeah, desktop use is fine. But the most interesting part is being able to access a machine outside of the operating system. Very useful for installing or reinstalling an OS without having to be in the same room. You can even access the system's BIOS since it just acts as a screen, keyboard and mouse. I'm quite happy with this solution. I do need to find or build a nice case for it, because this flat cable is pretty fragile. If you have any ideas on that, let me know in the comments. That's all I have for you today. I hope you liked this video. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time.